In just 8 minutes, this video breaks down the explosive 1.5-hour interview between Tucker Carlson and Chris Josephs from February 27, 2025. Josephs reveals how politicians like Nancy Pelosi and Dan Crenshaw are making millions with suspiciously timed stock trades, while ordinary Americans struggle. Stay till the end to uncover shocking details about Congress, corruption, and insider deals. Here are the key takeaways from the interview. Takeaway 1. Politicians trade stocks better than Wall Street. It turns out that some of the best investors in America are not Wall Street professionals, but politicians. Members of Congress have a habit of making stock trades that turn out to be incredibly profitable. The problem is, their timing is too perfect to be a coincidence. Chris Josephs, who runs the Nancy Pelosi Stock Tracker, has spent years exposing how politicians consistently make money in ways that suggest they have inside information. For example, Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio has outperformed the S&P 500 by 50% since Josephs started tracking it. In 2024 alone, while the stock market rose by 26%, she was up 54%. Even professional hedge fund managers struggle to get these kinds of returns. Somehow, politicians seem to know exactly what to buy and when. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 2. The infamous Pelosi trades. Nancy Pelosi has become the face of suspicious stock trading in Congress. The reason is simple. She and her husband, Paul Pelosi, have made some of the most well-timed investments in history, particularly in tech stocks. Given her role as a high-ranking politician, these trades have raised a lot of eyebrows. For example, in late 2020, just after Joe Biden was elected, she bought up to $5 million in Tesla stock options. Shortly after, the Biden administration announced policies promoting electric vehicles, causing Tesla's stock to soar. It was as if she knew government money was about to flow into the industry before anyone else did. This was not the only time she made a trade that seemed to be based on privileged knowledge. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 3, the Stock Act is a joke. In 2012, Congress passed the Stock Act, a law meant to prevent politicians from using insider information for personal gain. It sounds good in theory, but in practice it is full of loopholes. The biggest one is the 45-day delay before politicians have to disclose their trades. This means they can buy or sell stocks and make huge profits before the public even finds out about it. For example, during the 2008 financial crisis, some members of Congress got secret briefings about how bad the economy was going to get. While ordinary Americans were losing jobs and homes, these politicians quickly adjusted their stock portfolios to avoid losses. The Stock Act was supposed to stop this kind of behavior, but because of its weak enforcement and delayed reporting, it has done little to change anything. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 4. COVID trading scandals. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed some of the most blatant examples of politicians using their positions for financial gain. While the public was being told everything was under control, politicians were secretly dumping stocks in industries that would be hit hardest and buying shares in companies that would benefit from the crisis. For example, Senator Richard Burr was one of the worst offenders. On February 7, 2020, he wrote an article reassuring Americans that COVID was not a big threat. But at the same time, he was receiving classified briefings that painted a much darker picture. Just 6 days later, he sold off $1.65 million worth of stocks. Even more suspiciously, minutes after he made the trade, he called his brother-in-law, who then sold $265,000 worth of stocks as well. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 5, Dan Crenshaw and defense stocks. Dan Crenshaw, a congressman who presents himself as a straight-talking, tough-on-corruption politician, has also been found making highly questionable stock trades. He sits on committees that oversee military and defense budgets. Yet he has personally invested in companies that directly benefit from government contracts. For example, he invested in Meta, the parent company of Facebook, and soon after started publicly pushing for a TikTok ban. If TikTok were banned in the US, Meta would be one of the biggest winners. He then went even further. After spending months calling for a ban, he suddenly voted against it. But by then, Meta's stock had already shot up, earning him massive returns. We're halfway through the video. Thank you for sticking with us this far. If you're enjoying it, please give us a thumbs up and share it in your WhatsApp groups. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to comment below. To see more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Now let's continue with the video. Takeaway 6. Politicians use family members as loopholes. Even when politicians claim they do not trade stocks, their spouses and children often do. This allows them to keep profiting from insider knowledge while maintaining the appearance of clean hands. For example, Pelosi's trades are officially made by her husband, Paul Pelosi, who is a venture capitalist. But the fact that his trades often align perfectly with upcoming government policies makes it hard to believe that she has no involvement. This is a common tactic among politicians. They claim they are not trading, while their family members mysteriously make all the right moves. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 7. The best way to invest? Follow Congress. Since politicians seem to always know which stocks will go up, some people have decided to simply copy them. Chris Josephs and his team even built an app that lets users invest in the same stocks as politicians. Ironically, this approach has turned out to be wildly profitable. For example, their app Autopilot has tracked Pelosi's trades so well that people investing alongside her have made over $30 million in profits. It is almost like Congress itself has become a stock market predictor. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 8. The delay in disclosures helps politicians cheat. Politicians are supposed to disclose their trades, but they get a 45-day delay before the public sees them. This means that by the time we find out what they bought, it is often too late to take advantage of the information. For example, corporate executives are required to report their stock trades immediately. If a CEO did what Congress does, buying and selling stocks based on private information with a delay in reporting, they would likely be investigated for insider trading. Yet for some reason, politicians are allowed to get away with it. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 9. The failure of stock trading bans. There have been multiple attempts to ban stock trading by members of Congress, but these efforts always fail. Either the bill gets quietly killed before it comes up for a vote, or extra conditions are added to make it impossible to pass. For example, one bill that had strong bipartisan support suddenly included a new requirement that politicians would have to sell all their private businesses before running for office. This turned off many potential supporters and led to the bill's failure. It is as if Congress wants to appear as if they are trying to fix the problem while ensuring nothing actually changes. Now let's move to the last takeaway. Takeaway 10. Lack of trust in politicians is dangerous. One of the worst effects of this corruption is that it destroys public trust. When people believe that politicians are only looking out for themselves, it weakens democracy and creates instability. For example, in California, crime and economic problems have gotten worse over time. Politicians claim they are fixing these issues, but when people see no real change, they lose faith in the system. The same thing happens when Congress refuses to ban insider trading. If this corruption continues unchecked, it could eventually lead to serious consequences for the entire country. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this summary of the Tucker Carlson podcast with Chris Josephs informative. Please leave a like below and share this video in your WhatsApp groups. You can also discuss about this video by commenting below. To get more such videos in your timeline, press the subscribe button below.